beautiful nerds, and welcome to D3 Nerd Talk Podcast. I'm your co-host, Into, and
I'm producer David.
And we're from Nerd Life Official on YouTube.
We decided we'd let you guys know more about us for our very first episode of our podcast, and so you can see why you would listen to us. So, and two, why don't you tell everyone what makes you a nerd?
What makes me a nerd? I'm huge into books. Love books. Movies are okay. I don't really play video games. Pretty much I married you and I became a nerd that way.
Well, what about books?
Mainly vampire, anything with magic. I'm right now a huge fan of anything PC Cast writes. Her PC Cast, her House of Night, her House of Night Otherworld series, Boudica. Let's see.
Which somebody got you a signed copy for, was it Christmas? I believe they did that for you. I don't know who that person was.
Yeah, I wonder. Thank you, dear.
You're very welcome, sweetheart.
But no, let's see. There's, I haven't started reading the Anne Rice novels yet. I have a bunch of them. I just haven't figured out what order they go in.
From what I remember, decades ago when it first came out, was The Interview was your first one to read.
I don't think I have that one.
We had to look. I believe I did. I had bought it for you at one point in time, I think, but.
I don't know.
And
all my books are still
cross-country moves are telling what happened to it.
Yeah. Let's see. Books mainly. Oh, I help you with play video games because I'm your eyes. I let you know when there's shiny stuff to go.
Very true. You are my co-pilot, I guess. You're my Chewbacca
Yes.
when it comes to playing games.
I prefer Leia.
Yeah, but Chewbacca was a little more loyal.
I still prefer Leia because she's human and she's sexy.
How about my Hera?
Okay, I'll take her. Except she's green and I prefer to be blue, but whatever.
Well, what makes me a nerd, I guess you'd say, is about everything. Growing up, I was always a giant Star Wars fan. My parents had the original VHSs, so I watched those almost till they broke. I remember vividly going to see Special Edition at the theater because my dad's like, you had to see it. It's an experience. You have to see Star Wars in the theater. So,
if Star Wars was on TV, we would watch it, but we didn't actively look for it.
Oh no, Star Wars and Star Trek, but mainly Star Wars for me was the biggest thing. As a kid, I built type of lightsaber thing, just a handle and showed a piece of metal in it and whacked the crap out of my cousin and my brother with it. And
we weren't allowed to do lightsabers because that was magic and wrong. So we were allowed to do swords. So I did the same thing with sticks.
And we did lots of Jedi stuff. I believe at one point in time, I had owned or at least read every one of the Legends books besides, I believe the last series was called Fate of the Jedi. By that point in time, I had stopped reading those many books because I believe that's about the time we got married. I think is when they came out with that series, if not pretty close to it. I have, like I said, I've read almost every book. I have played nearly probably 90-95% of every video game for Star Wars ever made.
Yeah.
I have bought probably, I think we calculated 6 or 7 copies of iJedi. Physical, not even counting the 2 audiobooks I have of it.
You got 2?
I have the Audible had the original cassette tape ones where they abridged it and cut it down to like 3 hours because you only had about an hour to an hour and a half on a cassette tape. Well, they recently, within the past 6 months, I believe it was, re-recorded it with a new guy, and it's 23 hours, I believe it was.
Okay, so for when we do media review on that, Should we do the abridged version or not? Or should we do a compare contrast?
I might do a compare and contrast on that one.
You or me?
Well, unfortunately, it's gonna have to be me because I don't think there's anybody in this family who knows that book better than me.
Okay, you could do the compare and contrast. I'll just do the media review.
Because again, I have read that book so many times. Because Cornhorn is probably one of my favorite characters of all time in Star Wars.
And this is me just off the top of my head, Cornhorn. He was a cop, he was a Jedi, he was married, she disappeared, raising his daughter,
Yeah, he was
best
close.
friend of Luke.
Close-ish. He was a cop, became a X-wing pilot for Rogue Squadron, married the daughter of the man his father put away in prison,
Oh, he was his own grandpa.
who just happened to be an adopted father for Wedge Antilles.
Or was it what Gentili said? And
And then, yes, when his wife disappeared, Corn did start training to be a Jedi because he was from a long line of Corellian Jedis. And then, he doesn't have kids until later on in the books.
I'm sorry, you repeated it so much. That's just the stuff I wrote. You talk about Star Wars so much, which
Star Wars probably is my favorite thing. I believe we counted. I have 6 lightsabers for myself, not including the hilt I built for Father's Day. And you have 2 now.
yeah.
And each of our 3 children have their own promoter sabers.
Yeah. Don't you know our youngest has 5 Grogu's now?
Actually, our youngest has 2 lightsabers. He has the one he got from the mystery box I got for all y'all, and then he has his own dark saber. That weighs too much for him to use.
It's still cute to watch. But he wanted to be a Mandalorian. He wanted to be the Monde. So we had to get him the dark saber.
I even have my own holocron. I have my own a custom Mandalorian blaster. I don't have armor yet, but I'm slowly getting. I need an X-wing helmet. Though. That's my next big purchase. I think it's got to be my own X-wing helmet. I even have my own logo designed for it.
Of course you do.
Well, besides the Jedi books like Jedi Academy and I Jedi, my favorite books was the Rogue Squadron books because they were different side of Star Wars. They were fighter pilots. You didn't hear about that.
I prefer the Mandalorian symbol you created for the family.
Yes, well that's also will be on my armor though coming up. We do a renewal, but
Yeah.
I'm not just Star Wars. I'm also a big fan of Star Trek. Of course, I grew up in the era when we had the Next Generation,
Which one was that one?
Picard.
Okay.
Then we had DS9 with Cisco at the same time. Then
Never watched that until I was with you.
then Next Generation ended. Then we had DS9 and Voyager at the same time.
Oh, is that the one with Archer?
No, that was Enterprise. That was the last
That
series
was
for a while. That was the one that quote unquote killed Star Trek for a while. Basically, they put it on a network, their own network that no one really watched. They had a little too much interference with it, and it might have been a little bit of burnout. But it's also the writing wasn't the best. It took a while for the show to get picked up.
yeah, that it did.
I still watch Star Trek to this day. I'm a giant Lower Decks fan. Strange New Worlds. I will
I like Tindy.
be like the majority of people who are, I guess, old like me. Discovery was, if you can take it out of canon, it wasn't a bad show at times. The Klingon designer in the first season was horrendous.
Oh, don't even get me
That's
started.
not a Klingon. But
They look like
the-
seashells.
the acting was quite well.
I have an issue with Michael being.
Again, we take it out of canon. It's not a bad show.
Spock's sister, that's her name.
Yeah, it just makes no sense that he'd have this. Well, again, he did in Star Trek 5. Did have a brother that no one knew about because they didn't ask him. So I guess they used that same logic to say why he had a sister.
Yes.
It was, again, it was a very well acted show. It just the premise. It was supposed to take place right before, the original series, but it looked like Abrams' Trek. Which again, Abrams' Trek was enjoyable. I watched it. It was good, fun movies. It's a part of Star Trek that's fun, but it wasn't to me Star Trek. I grew up again. We had Picard who sat there and he can give you a 5-minute speech on why you shouldn't do something. Guess what? You didn't do it because Jean-Luc Picard talked you out of it. He was the chief diplomat.
He made me want to piss him off. I wanted to do it anyway.
Like Cisco could do that too, but Cisco also the same guy who committed genocide too against the Maquis just to.
Didn't he punch Q?
He did punch Q.
But Picard never punched me.
But Cisco was the type of guy he would talk to you if you wouldn't listen to him. He would poison the atmosphere of your homeworld so you wouldn't leave. Because there's a group called the Maquis. They were a bunch of people who were very pissed off at the Federation for giving their planets to the Cardassians. Literally, because there was an unseen war. We never got to see the war between the Cardassians and the Federation.
Yeah, the war they always talked about.
And as part of the peace treaty, they traded planets. And they told the colonists, hey, you might want to leave this planet because I'm going to the Cardassians. Like, well, no, we set up homes here. Like, well, you got to leave. They didn't leave. And the Cardassians, being the Cardassians, treated them like crap. So they hated the Cardassians, and they hated the Federation for abandoning them.
Are the Cardassians the spoon ones?
Yes, they're called spoonheads as a derogatory term, yes.
But we liked him on the ship. Alright.
Like Garrick,
Yeah,
yes, I loved him. The interesting thing is, I apparently was a fan of that actor long before Star Trek DS9. Didn't realize it. In Hellraiser, he is her father. The one who dies, and then at the end, her uncle wears his skin, pretend to be him, but that's him.
Yeah,
He's a very talented actor. He's a very talented actor. And well, you realize a lot of people in Star Trek started at other places too.
Yeah.
We have a lot of actors in Star Trek who've gone through Star Trek, like Christian Slater. He was in Star Trek. I want to say his mom was a casting director, so he asked can I get a bit part in one of the movies, and he did, and ended up getting having a pretty successful career in the 80s and 90s. Ashley Judd was in DS9. I'm sorry, not DS. I'm sorry, Next Generation. She actually played a love interest of Wesley Crusher. But there's a lot of people who went through that show, because that show, once it got popular, was a pretty good place to be seen.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, of course, I'm a giant comics fan. Marvel. I'm currently still rocking a 5-year-old Velcro Captain America wallet.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to find that one.
It goes along with my Captain America shield and my Captain America multi-tool. And
let's see. Yeah, Captain America multi-tool, Captain America shield, the wallet, the hat, shirts.
A couple of shirts. Captain America is always be my favorite hero. It doesn't matter who's wielding the shield. I like Steve. I love Sam. Of course, my favorite run was when Bucky was Cap, just because the idea of him getting redemption from his Winter Soldier days as Captain America.
Just as long as it's not John Walker.
I like John though too.
No. See,
John's a lovable jerk. John is a conservative jerk, but John still believes in the country.
Okay. See, you read the comics. I didn't. All I know from John is the movie.
That's kind of what he is, though. But he actually was better in the show than he was in the comics. Because starting out in the comics, he led rallies, anti-Captain America rallies. They say Captain America's failing America. That he should be the new Captain America when he was a super patriot. He had a couple of guys in costumes who would do graffiti and stuff in Captain America's name, and just so to look like Captain America was failing everybody. And when the government failed Captain America, failed Steve Rogers, he quit, and John Walker got what he wanted. And then John Walker got what he didn't want. His parents were killed. So as revenge, he burned the murderers alive because they were the two goons that worked for him. They released his name to everybody. He had to fake his death, became a U.S. agent as Jack Daniels. So yes, he goes from being John Walker or Johnny Walker, one whiskey, to being Jack Daniels, another whiskey.
Wow. See, U.S. agent, I'm cool with. Not Captain America.
Well, the thing is, what does America stand for?
Not what he did.
He still wanted the country to be better. His vision of the country was different. Like Steve Rogers probably will be the best Captain America just because what he believes in the American dream. That's who he is.
See, the American dream should be what everybody wants America.
Now, Sam's a great one too because he has a vision for America that's different because he's seen a side of America that most of the comic fans don't get to see, which is part of the problem we had when he first was made Captain America. You had a very vocal but small group of people who did the whole entire "not my cap" crap because he was an African American man being Captain America, and he used to be a white guy. But the same people who said that complained and said the comics weren't political.
I'm sorry, Captain America.
Jack Kirby literally drew Captain America #1 on the cover with him punching Hitler before we were in World War II. So comics, especially Marvel, has been political since day one.
Right.
Stan Lee we didn't have a lot of representation for minorities in comics. But he made sure that if you saw a crowd of people, you could have African Americans, Hispanic people, because, as he famously put it, that's who I see outside my window every day.
Right.
Because he grew up in New York City, so he saw a bunch of people. Now, he helped create Black Panther, and famously, the printer refused to show his original mask, his Black Panther's original mask. His mouth was open. You can see he was a black guy. The printer couldn't handle that. So when they printed, they printed his mouth closed. They put black color over that so you couldn't see his mouth. Because again, people in those days couldn't handle it. Some people couldn't handle it. Like, unfortunately, nowadays people can handle it.
I don't get it. I really don't.
I grew up, luckily, not knowing racism. I knew it existed, but I never saw it. I've heard it. Well, I saw it on TV. I heard about it, but I grew up in a small town. We were mostly white, but my dad taught me people are people.
See, so, I grew up with racism, but I'm all people are people.
When we got married, I moved down to Kentucky to be with you. I got to start seeing racism firsthand, and I see people using the N-word on a regular basis. Like, have you guys ever seen a person of color?
Yeah.
How have they affected you to make you hate them so much? And none of them can answer this.
But one of my cousins could.
And still, he even admitted he was wrong.
Yeah.
But still, I literally remember working at a store one day and then having a fellow employee saying that, MLK was the N-word day. And because we had Barack Obama, who just got elected, every day it'd be that. And I'm looking like, what is wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with, somebody of color existing? There's no problem. Yes, I'll probably be the whitest person genetically you can find almost. I am whiter than mayonnaise.
Okay, there you.
But I am not offended.
1% Mongolian.
I am not offended because of people different from me exist. I'm glad they do. I love Blade. My favorite movies of all time. My favorite actor is Michael J. White, which he is a black martial artist. First time I saw him was in the movie Spawn. A very subpar movie done by
That was a Don't let anybody know I let you watch this.
Yeah, done by McFarlane, the guy who literally made Spawn. He helped write and produce this movie. a rated R bloody comic into a PG-13 Hollywood film. But Michael J. White is one of the toughest guys in the world. I would not mess with this man. I would sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk to this dude, but I would never want to make him mad. He's one of my favorite action stars. My favorite character in Star Trek, the original series, was Sulu.
That's Abby's, our daughter's favorite.
Because Sulu was amazing.
Just as long as he has a shirt on.
Sulu could fly anything. Literally, anything from a helicopter from the 1980s that he would never have any reason to see to a Klingon vessel.
How?
He just was that good a pilot. But he wasn't just a pilot. He was a botanist. He was the original first episode. He was an astrophysicist. He wasn't even a pilot yet.
Because that's why you need a Hura to read and speak the language.
Well,
the Klingon language.
I'm not a big expert
fly.
on a Hura. I'm not sure exactly what her reading skills were on, like certain things. People can speak a language. Like our daughter is actually learning kanji, Japanese, not kanji, Japanese. Excuse me. And but I'm not sure we can drop our daughter somewhere and she can read kanji for us. I don't think it's possible yet. Like
No.
I was able when I was younger because I wanted to be Indiana Jones. I could read minor hieroglyphics, some really, really minor stuff, but I could not tell you a single word in Egyptian. And just, but that's the reason why I like Star Trek though. Star Trek was one of the things, that's probably why I grew up not being racist. It was probably Star Trek. I got the point of the show early on.
Yeah.
I saw a group of different people.
Oh, you mean like our son? When he's like, when I was talking to my family because we were watching it and they were kind of being racist at the moment, and he goes, "Oh, what? You mean like the Klingons are? But you like the Klingons?"
Yeah, I think that's honestly what it was. Because I grew up watching, like, we had Worf on the bridge. And yeah, he was a Klingon, but I knew he was a black guy. I knew he was an African American individual.
I didn't care.
And, like, of course, Sulu, we had Uhura. These people are all different, but they were all equal. They're all human beings. That was the whole point of Star Trek. That is still to this day the point of Star Trek. Have you noticed, if I'm ever upset, I can usually put on an episode of Trek. Like, especially Strange New Worlds. I can watch any episode of Strange New Worlds and I'll be happy. That's one of my happy shows. Because I love Pike. He's quickly moved up to be one of my favorite captains.
Oh, okay.
Because I think if I was a Starfleet captain, kind of who I'd be. He feeds his whole crew. He can fight. At the same time, he likes to talk to someone about a situation.
Yeah, we figured out that I probably wouldn't be.
You would not be Starfleet. No.
No.
You even though you went to ROTC, you like to question authority a little too much.
I was when I was in ROTC, I knew not to question. I didn't question. I followed orders. But no, I questioned.
You, if anything, you might be Mariner. Mariner is a very good, very talented officer, but there's a reason why she was an ensign after like first 2 seasons. She still was ensign.
The daughter of the.
Yeah.
Okay, lower decks. Okay.
Yeah, the captain's daughter who she hid that fact for a little while till I don't know.
Yeah. She just questions too much. Like,
well, that also she didn't want it. She didn't want to have the.
then she saw the world differently.
Well, that was just a responsibility, because who wants that? Like, honestly, I would love the center seat. I've been a manager before, and my goal would be to have that chair. But again, it's like, I'm a giant wrestling fan. Like Cody Rhodes said in an interview a while back, if you're not there to be world champion, then quit the business. You should want to be the best. You should want to excel at your job. So if you're in Starfleet, your goal, if you're in that command division, should be to get that center seat.
Yeah.
Because that means you're going to work the hardest to do everything that's possible.
So I have a question. So, like Scotty, he could have eventually become captain?
Technically, he was a captain. In Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, he received the rank of captain. He was called Captain of Engineering, which no one to this day can explain to me what this is, besides just a fancier way of saying chief engineer, but he was a captain. So, to be a bridge officer, you had to take command courses. You had to go to command school. There's a storyline in Next Generation where Deanna Troy wants to become a bridge officer. Because I forgot what it was. There was some scenario where she kind of had to take command, and she actually realized she kind of liked it. But she had a problem going through some of the training to become one. But like Dr. Crusher, she was, because she took the third watch. Like she took the late shift, like midnight to 6 a.m., midnight to 8 o'clock shift on the bridge as captain, as acting captain, because they had to have somebody there.
Yeah.
And she liked it. It was quiet, but she could potentially become captain. In fact, actually, famously in All Good Things, the last episode, she had become an admiral after she had married Picard. And then they got divorced by that point in time in the storyline. But yeah, anybody, as long as you have the command training, you can become a captain. Janeway was a brand new captain when Voyager episode 1 started.
Okay.
She was a science officer before she got that gig.
Okay.
So yeah, as long as you get the training, you can be ship's counselor, like Troy was. And if you have command training and you've earned that rank, technically you can be a commander and still command a starship.
Yeah.
They still call you captain, as your title would be your rank, but still as a title.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I know we haven't watched very much of Picard. Is Wesley in it?
I think he's makes a couple appearances. From what I know of, most of the stuff that Will Wheaton has done for Star Trek is hosting his Ray Room show, which I think is over with, unfortunately. He did a lot of like interviews and stuff like that. I did remember seeing the video where he did tour the Enterprise D set, and of course he rightfully teared up. I would probably do the same, and I wasn't on the show. Me walking in that set, because
Yeah.
when I was a kid, we had started an experience at the Hilton in Vegas. I never got to go. I always did want to go because one of the selling points was you could walk on the Enterprise D bridge because they had one there. What do you call it, a ride? Well, like a little thing, a little storyline you can go through. You get beamed to the Enterprise, and you actually could go on the bridge, and the buttons are supposed to beep and all this. Well, after the Enterprise incident, where the show kind of killed Star Trek supposedly, ratings dropped, they eventually tore it down. And then there's like a traveling experience. You see some stuff, and I want to say recently I just heard about. I think I watched the video on it. Universal Studios has a Star Trek thing now. From the video I saw, very subpar storyline and subpar acting. I mean, the people were, because I know they're not really great actors, but still, you think you're gonna find some people who operate the right who can act.
Right.
Because like for Star Trek the experience, they got like Riker, you got Geordi, bless you. You got the actual actors recording videos for this. Of course, it'd be on screen and all that, but still, you actually had real people from Star Trek that you would recognize there.
Oh, like at your game STO? Star Trek Online?
Yes, and which is great because it brought people who were gone from Star Trek back to Star Trek.
You haven't played that in a while.
No, I've unfortunately when it comes to MMORPGs, I will play them until I beat everything, and then you have to wait for more expansion to come out because I'm not one of those guys who sit there's going to go through raids and do all that over and over again. I maybe have ADD, I don't know, but I can't keep doing the same stuff over and over again.
Right.
So I wait for an expansion to come out. So next time a bigger event comes to Star Trek Online, and plus I'll pop on coming up when Ryza hits again, do all the Ryza stuff.
I want to go to Ryza. I don't know how I'm going to get there because I'm not transporting and I'm not flying in space, so I don't know. I want to go. I'm just not going. I don't know how I'm going to go, though.
Like right now, I've rediscovered Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is probably one of the most fun games I've played because you can do almost anything on it. You want to be a lame trooper, I guess. But if you wanted to be a bounty hunter,
Just bounty hunter.
earn yourself positions on Mandalorian. You can be a smuggler, which the smuggler storyline, the dialogue's funny, but you don't smuggle. That's my only problem with it. That's why I don't play very much with it, because I'm not continuously flying from planet to planet trying to get past and bluff Imperials. I'm sitting there just pretty much doing stuff for the Republic. I'm sorry, but a smuggler should not be sitting there kissing the government's butt. He should not be a tool of the Republic. Now, I understand like the Republic Trooper being that, and of course both classes of Jedi. Yes, they should be all about the Republic. It's kind of the problem I have with the Bounty Hunter, because just how the way the game's made. If you go on planets, the story arc for each planet usually evolves around one of the factions, and they put the Bounty Hunter on the Sith side just for balance purposes, because the Mandalorians are made to deal with the Sith Empire at that point in time in the universe. So you do a lot of jobs for the Empire. I'm sorry.
Ugh.
I may be a jerk, but I would never back up the Sith, and definitely never back up the Galactic Empire, especially if I was a Mandalorian.
Okay, a Mandalorian now.
And that's how I play the game. Because I grew up with what we call legends nowadays. Star Wars for me is after Return of the Jedi. You know, like we had Jedi Academy start, if I don't remember correctly, that would be, let's see, 8 years after Endor, so it'd be 12 ABY, when Luke formed his own academy on Yavin 4.
Endor's the Ewoks, right?
Yes.
Okay.
See, that's to me a Star Wars. That's why it's one of the reasons I didn't like the sequel trilogy.
Well, those were just
Because
really badly acted.
I have no problem with them handing off to new characters. That'd been awesome. That's cool. But you can't have the central character from Star Wars. Luke Skywalker is the central character.
Yeah.
You cannot have him sidelined for a whole entire movie, first part of your trilogy. And then your second movie you have with him, make him a stupid joke.
How was it a joke?
Oh, the green milk, and he just threw the lightsaber like he didn't care. He was pathetic. He wasn't Luke Skywalker.
No. No, he wasn't.
And I've heard people say, like, well, it's like Yoda. Yoda's like, no. Yoda still wasn't, you know.
You didn't want to mess with Yoda, even though he was tiny and
Well,
was
still, he took the Jedi stuff serious. And we're like, well, Luke, have he failed? Kylo, like, Yoda failed. He literally had the Emperor literally came to power under his nose.
Right?
And he tried to defeat him and he couldn't do it. But did Yoda, he just give up? No. He went someplace to prepare to train the next generation.
Because he knew that there'd be
Right.
more people.
And I'm sorry, but Rey Rey was too perfect of a character for me. Because I know she was supposed to be the new version of Luke. But she wasn't. Because I've talked to people like, well, she's a great pilot because of this, because she read a manual. No. Luke was a great pilot because they discussed several times.
He went to school, didn't he?
No, he wanted to go to the academy, but it literally said, he mentioned how he's one of the best pilots bush pilots in the galaxy. Because Biggs Darklighter said that when he was on Yavin, how good Luke was with a Skyhopper. It's a type of little air speeder.
Okay.
In universe, if you know a little more about Star Wars, like Income was a company that made the Skyhopper. Income made the X-Wing. So they had very similar controls.
Okay.
So that made it easier for him to go back and forth. But also, he was a crack shot. He raced through canyons at full speed so he could maneuver, which also again helped him in the trench. There's a canyon.
Yeah.
So he had this prior knowledge they established. Even without knowing like the Skyhopper and the X-Wing are made by the same people. To know Rey read manuals, you had to read expanded universe stuff. But I'm sorry, I can give our youngest child. No, don't say our. Let's say our youngest child.
A 5-year-old?
I can give him a user car manual, or anybody who's seen a car, give them a user car manual, and they're gonna be able to pull off high speed maneuvers.
I was driving for years and I couldn't do that.
Right, but she was able to fly the Millennium Falcon away from TIE fighters and all this stuff. Like, no, like,
Yeah, no.
and the one person who might have had some pilot training, Finn, he was just kind of there. She didn't. She flew. He didn't fly.
No, it was Poe that just disappeared, wasn't it?
Well, originally they killed Poe off because they were writing the script as they were filming the movie.
No,
Because
no.
Disney wanted the movie out fast because Disney paid billions of dollars for Star Wars, and they wanted a profit. They wanted a profit quicker than what they could have had. So they rushed it out, and they didn't have a full script. And the actor who played Poe was a really good actor, Oscar Isaac. And so apparently JJ liked him and just rewrote him in. That's why he suddenly showed up when he got to roll base. Oh, Poe's still alive.
Wow.
Like, and Ray, what Jedi training did she have?
Luke didn't even train her.
What training did she have to be okay? So Luke trained Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
That was his nephew. He trained him. I don't know when his training started. If it's something like an expanded universe for Legends, for the Solo kids, they started about 7 to 10, around that range, if I remember correctly. And looking at the scene where he supposedly tries to kill him, or a nightmare of all things. He was in his late teens, early 20s. So that's like, what, a decade of training? Not to mention however time he spent as Kylo Ren, how much training he had from Snoke and all this other stuff. So, yet, a girl from a desert world who could use a staff, I'll give her that, was able to hold her own against a trained Force user.
I'm sorry.
Hell, Finn lasted a little bit longer than he should.
Right?
And I liked Finn. I liked the character. I liked the actor. But he shouldn't have had any chance.
You shouldn't have even been able to use a lightsaber.
Yeah. You can say yes or no. Like, Boba Fett was shown in Legends that Boba can use a lightsaber. Again, it's Boba Fett, though, too.
Yeah.
But the movies weren't very well done. And, because I remember we took the kids to see Force Awakens. I was excited. Because, again, rite of passage, I had to see Star Wars theaters with our kids. And we saw it, and I walked out, I'm like, eh. I was irritated by Ray. I was more like, eh. It's like they took A New Hope, like a bigger repeat things. That's it.
Pretty much.
Like, I recently watched a thing with George, and George is like, he had this whole new idea, more of the mythology and all that, and they're just like, nah, we want to do we want to redo Star Wars because that made money.
Yeah.
But Marvel, they have all the continuity that people mine from, take ideas from, and they let Marvel do their own thing. And Marvel made how much money for them?
Right.
Even their least successful movies are still making profits.
I don't know about Madam Web.
That's not them. That was Sony.
Okay.
We don't talk about those. But
Or Morbius.
Morbius, Craven, which I haven't watched that one yet, and we might just hate watching coming up. But well, Morbius and Madam Web were written by the same people. Because they're cheap, probably. That's what I would assume. They are cheap screenwriters, and I wouldn't be surprised if the same person helped write 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, don't.
But
I read it, unfortunately, because it was the hit thing at the time.
see, but I will not say Star Wars is dead. Star Wars is not dead. Star Wars will never die. Star Wars is different, yes. But think about it. Still had great Star Wars projects after Disney bought. So Disney's not destroying Star Wars. Rogue One was an amazing film. Probably one of the best Star Wars films ever, I will say.
Boba Fett and Mandalorian.
As series-wise, Mandalorian is probably the best series.
So we just started watching them.
We're watching Ahsoka, and also we'll start watching the Acolyte coming up. Um, but the Book of Fett was good. I had some problems with it, yes. It seemed like Boba wasn't always there. It seemed like Fennec was she did more early action than he did. It's like she ran the story more than he did at times. But again, the actor could be one. He seemed like a pretty good shape. Maybe he was getting too old, they thought, or just maybe they just wanted to highlight other characters. Or maybe it was a Kathleen Kennedy directive that, hey, we need to have something with a female fronted character.
My question was, how long after, like the Revenge of the Sith and everything, with Luke and Leia?
Well, Luke and Leia were about 18 or 19 from when Star Wars: A New Hope took place. So he was about what I would say 7 to 10 years range, probably in Attack of the Clones, and Revenge took place a couple years after that. So he's older, yes. He did get eaten by a Sarlacc, which kind of hurts you too.
He did spend a lot of time in the bacta tank, so.
But that's also a problem, though. He spent a lot of time healing.
Yeah.
They wrote the character to be like that. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Boba was good, and the character did evolve. It looks again. Dave Filoni did it, so he is the heir apparent to George Lucas. That's who George chose to do Clone Wars and other projects for him, and he loves legends, just like Jon Favreau does too. So it looks like they're kind of basing somewhat off of the later books where Boba was Mandalore. But instead of him being Mandalore, he's
a kingpin.
Yeah, which okay, cool. He's protecting the town he's in, Mos Eisley and all that. Great.
Yeah.
Cool. But it still was good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Again, The Mandalorian, I will always love that. I've always loved the Mandalorian people. I love the character. Jar Jar Binks is a great character. Majority of the cast was great.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have Grogu, and that's $1 billion right there. And our youngest, that was his first thing he reacted to on television was Grogu.
Yeah.
And he has so many Grogus.
He's got Grogu sheets.
Pajamas. He's got, what, 5 Grogus I think we counted?
Yep. 4 stuffed ones, and then the one that talks, and that one's creepy. Because it's like a Furby. I'm not.
I will admit, like, I like watching Young Jedi Adventures with Robbie.
Oh, the one with Nubs?
Yes.
I like Nubs.
I am questioning the Jedi training methods on that show.
Yes.
And also why a kid a little bit older than our child has her own starship as a smuggler.
And it seems to be the
And
issue.
there's a pirate at their age. I understand you can't show adult beat up kids. Duh, I can understand that, but there's gotta be other ways of doing it. But again, it's still a cute show, and it's well done. And I like the High Republic era, which again I've seen a lot of people online poo-poo. Like, why? What's wrong with this? We're getting, an era of Star Wars we've not seen. We're getting a lot of great characters.
Well, the purple Twi'lek-esque one. I like her too. Nub's little friend.
Oh yeah, unfortunately I can't remember all the characters because I watch so many shows of Robert. It's hard to get them all straight.
I know.
But
like Spidey and his amazing friends and others. Glow, Webs, Glow.
No, we're not talking about that. But now I lost my train of thought. But Star Wars is still out there. It's still growing. Oh, High Republic, I was talking about.
Yeah.
High Republic, I have like 4 or 5 of the books, or the Phase 1 books. I think I got 1 Phase 2 book. And I enjoy it. Again, the characters are great. I like the idea of the crossguard lightsaber being from their era. I like the look. I like how everything. Lots of the Jedi had a lot of white and brown. They look different. Every era looks different, and they took some serious time. And the cool thing is they took concept art from other Star Wars projects and turned that into stuff for that.
Okay.
we got to see an era where the Jedi were powerful, but not on their high horse like they were in the Clone Wars. Really, a very young, young for Yoda, like he's 600, 700 years old. Sorry about that. Parental duties, call me away. So,
Yeah. See, we talked about Star Wars, we talked about Star Trek, Marvel.
I'm going to touch briefly upon Marvel, but yeah, I'm a giant Marvel fan. So Captain America's my favorite character, but the best team of all was always going to be the X-Men.
Brotherhood.
Well, the comics themselves, those are the best comics I think Marvel's had.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Come on, we had Chris Claremont creating some of the most iconic characters and storylines. And that was a top-selling comic for a long time, too.
Yeah.
Still, X-Men #1 with Jim Lee drawing was still the top-selling comic of all time.
Bigger than the Captain America?
Yeah, because one, Jim Lee was a hot artist. In the 90s, that's a lot of things were was just artists. Unfortunately, same era gave us all the pockets, and Cyclops stopped being slim, became more like Arnold Schwarzenegger, it looked like to me.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm a giant Marvel fan, so Spider-Man, of course, I watched the cartoon first. Which, again, it was a cartoon that introduced me to those comics.
Yeah.
Honestly, because X-Men, his dad was a giant X-Men fan, he loved Beast, so he sat me down to watch X-Men, and then watch Spider-Man also, and I introduced him to Spider-Man.
It
comics,
wasn't until Chris was born that I even got interested in Spider-Man.
The comics weren't my thing until, I would say, grade school, junior high. I had, other stuff like Star Wars, Star Trek, Power Rangers.
I love Power Rangers.
I was a Power Rangers kid, obviously, like everyone in our generation was. But comics I didn't pick up to them. But once I first watched the cartoon, once I read my first comic, I was hooked.
Yeah.
Obviously, because as you know, I have a collection of comics.
You've got them everywhere. We need to get a container for you to put them all in.
Thankfully I have Marvel Unlimited, so I can just sit there and read.
Yeah, I need to start reading those songs.
Most of that stuff now, and a lot of stuff I own, I also has gone digital, and they're pretty close to being up to date. They're only a few months behind on some things now, so. And we
need to finish watching Marvel. Not Marvel. X-Men '97.
Yeah, which you made me quit for a while after Gambit died.
Remy LeBeau did not die like that.
Yeah, he did. He was a pathetic character. I hated Gambit since day one.
You shush.
He was.
Cyclops go squish.
No, Cyclops is the heart of the X-Men.
I'm not listening to you.
Cyclops is the leader of the X-Men.
No, Professor X is.
Gambit's replaceable.
No. Remy LeBeau is not replaceable.
At the same time I got into that, of course, I got into Batman from, again, Batman animated series.
Harley.
Because my dad didn't read comics that much. Again, he knew the X-Men. He liked the X-Men because he liked Beast. My mom didn't read anything like that. She watched nerd stuff. She got me watching Battlestar Galactica. I watched reruns of that as a kid. But reading comics was something my family did on a regular basis. So it took me the TV shows for me to get into it. And of course, like I said, once I read my first comic, I was hooked. And I almost cried the day our comic book shop here stopped doing comics and became a tabletop game store.
Right. But no. See, I would write comics if they weren't so, don't be a nerd.
Well,
we could read them, but they just aren't download.
I think part of the problem is the stigma for it's supposedly a male thing.
No, it wasn't a male.
I think that might have been part of what's going on with people. It's a problem that comics have had for years anyway. Is they see it as being a guy thing.
It wasn't being a guy thing. It was the whole.
Well, your family might have been different, but I've noticed that it seems like women don't get into comics as much as they should. We don't have comic writers. We don't have comic artists really.
See, that one bothers me. You would think, because women want to be artists all the time.
Well, artists, I off the top of my head cannot remember any prominent female artists off my head. Probably plenty out there, I just can't remember them. But Gail Simone was a prominent female writer. Birds of Prey was one of her biggest things. That's her. I think she's done it twice. She's come back to it twice.
That's one of Abby's favorites. Birds
and
of Prey.
She, her famously, she made her comics like they didn't talk about dating. That wasn't a thing they cared about. It wasn't about romance. They were heroes, just happened to be female. It wasn't like, oh, I need to go on a date with Green Arrow tomorrow. No. But it's unfortunately, since it's a male-dominated career path, we see, especially in our era as a kid, the women are over-sexualized. So if you're in a store, if you see, Rogue wearing barely anything because suddenly her tire got ripped up, or you see, a girl's behind prominently on the front cover, are you as a female?
I'm sorry. Back up to Rogue's clothes being almost non-existent. So everyone has to be extremely careful.
It was Savage Land. They didn't have any powers.
Oh, okay. So that
Yeah.
makes a little bit more
But
sense.
still,
Well, I mean, come on. That one guy, that one artist did trace.
yeah,
Porn
well,
stars.
that's another problem too. We have something like that,
Yeah.
a creep like that, because again,
And then, like, breasts, like, gazillion J's. Big.
well, yeah, again, it's comics. Unfortunately, are not as popular as they will never be as popular as they were. We're not going to sell as many comics. Marvel probably makes more money with a toy line than they ever will with comics, not only on the movies itself.
Yeah. Well, that's just because people don't really actually read physical.
Well, it's not just
books
that too, but if you're alienating half the reading populace,
Yeah, there's that too.
if any fandom, like you have like Star Wars fandoms, you have a group of Star Wars fans who say that Star Wars is for men only, and it's not.
Janeway.
And for Star Trek, yeah, I'm talking about
No.
But actually, that's a good point. There was a giant backlash in the '90s when they made her a captain. Like, you can't put a woman as a captain of a ship. Why? How can you do that? She'd have a period, and suddenly she'd start a war. Like, no.
I'm sorry, it's the men that start wars, not the women. Women are the ones normally stopping them. But anyway.
But it's nerd stuff. Doesn't seem to really try to go out for women, or they do. It's something stupid.
Dazzler.
I was talking about, I was on Marvel Unlimited a while back, and it was like some dating comic. It was like their big push to get, like, Mary Jane loves Spider-Man, or something like that. That was their big push, not giving us.
Veronica and Betty, I think.
That was way back when, but yeah. But not giving us, hey, here's, Ghost Spider
Ghosty.
kicking some butt, or, here's Kamala Khan doing great things as Miss Marvel.
And Biggums.
Here's a strong female character, she's a great character, so have to be female. No, it's, alright, to get a female audience, we gotta do romance, gotta do dating comics.
No. Captain Marvel in the movies, at least. She really made it like she was a guy type.
Well,
and a female body.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that is a major point in the comics, is she is one of the strongest Avengers, period. She is one of the strongest people on Earth, period. And she just happens to be a woman. For years, she was Miss Marvel, and I think I do have a comic. I can't remember it. But I do the comic where she took the title, and Steve's like, "You've more than earned this," because she actually had the rank of captain anyway in the military, but she more than earned the right to become Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
But yeah, see that then there's another point. There's a good, strong character, and I liked the Captain Marvel movie, but then you had a very vocal member of the audience saying, "Oh, I can't watch it because it's got a female." Like, why? What about a woman scares you so much?
Right?
I enjoyed the movie very well. I think it was quite enjoyable. Again, growing up in the '90s, I see a lot of '90s stuff that I remember, like Blockbuster.
Red Sonja.
Red Sonja was a good movie. Yeah, it's well a good B movie. But again, it's another movie. Like, growing up, it was weird because people my age are doing it. It's like we grew up with Ripley.
Oh.
Yeah, we grew up with Sarah Connor. We grew up with strong.
Sarah Connor, I love her.
Yeah, we grew up with strong female characters still in movies. But they had become submersive. Think about it. You had Sarah Connor, but you also had Arnold Schwarzenegger being Arnold being above in the same movie.
Yeah.
They had a high to strong female character. She was a side, just half the movie, not the whole star.
Well,
Even though Linda Hamilton was a great actress, and she could have done the whole movie, probably.
Oh yeah, she could have.
But I do believe that nerdom needs to do more to cater to women too.
Yeah.
We have a lot of like Amanda McKnight. I loved her. She was on Top 10 Nerd over there. Anyway, like for a while, she's like their only presenter.
Yeah.
She has her own YouTube channel. She's a cosplayer and she has a lot of great stuff. She knows comics. She's a nerd. She's not just a gorgeous woman. She just happens to be a nerd.
She's the redhead, right?
Yeah, like Olivia Munn, who played Psylocke in X-Men Apocalypse. She was on G4 TV, which used to be a nerd television channel, like games, all that. So she knew her stuff.
Yeah.
But we don't have many of those people like that out there.
What's it, Avengers that had the whole Avengers comic club?
The X-Men movies, famously X-Men movie, because Bryan Singer didn't want them to be influenced by the comics. So they were pass the comics around. I don't get it, but like I said, I've always thought we need to have more women in comics, period. But now, of course, I have a daughter.
Yeah.
And our daughter loves comics too. I don't get why we don't have that.
No, I don't either.
And we should, because again, women are half our population, if not more. And I enjoy a good, strong woman.
Oh yeah. Mystique. She's a good, strong. I mean, yeah, she's a villain most of the time, but she's a good, strong.
Yeah, and see, she is, but the problem is you'll never get a Mystique movie.
Unfortunately.
Because again,
I would love for her to be with a Destiny.
You have a very prominent member of a group of our fellow fans out there who don't care about women in comics. Do you think women should be there for just eye candy and that's it? And I don't care if I alienate them. If it's because they've never had a woman want to be with them. Well, I'm sorry. I am not the most attractive man in the world. I have a beautiful wife, and I enjoy having a strong woman around. And I enjoy reading about strong women.
Uh-huh.
I am not going to have my masculinity questioned just because I see a woman do something I can't do. Like, oh no, I'm weak now. Like, no. So what? You can do something I can't do.
Technically, women's pain threshold is average higher than men because of childbirth.
But it's just...
So, I mean, why? Without women, there wouldn't be men.
That's true. And I don't know. There's people want comics to be what they want. They want any nerdom to be what they want. Nerdom should be inclusive to everybody. Period.
Right.
I think, again, Stan Lee is great with Spider-Man. He said anybody can be under a mask. Anybody. I will end this on this note. If you are a fan of Star Wars and you are supporting excluding people, if you are a fan of Star Wars and you hate somebody because they're different than you are not a Jedi, you're not the Rebellion, you're the Empire. Point blank. If you're rooting for somebody else to suffer because they are not like you, You are the bad guy. The
Yeah.
Jedi, like the Jedi. If you look at the Jedi Council, there's what, 2 humans.
Really, really?
Most, yeah, because you'd see you have Adi Gallia was in Phantom Menace, and of course you got Mace Windu. Everybody else is puppets or guys in makeup.
Bobby.
And I will give one of the few things I can definitely say good about the sequel trilogy is a lot of the real pilots weren't humans anymore.
Okay, yeah, there's that too, yeah.
So if you look around you and you only see people of yourself and think that's how it should be, you have a very narrow vision of the world, and you are definitely not a nerd.
No.
And you are not a rebel. You're not an Avenger. You're definitely not an X-Men.
No.
You're not even Brotherhood.
No.
You are a flat scan, and I don't care if I upset you or not.
Fro.
Comics in nerdom period is for everybody and anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We should all be nerds and have a good day.